city. Everyone sees. Yet simultaneously, the one they don't. Amsterdam. To millions, it's a postcard. A city of winding canals, historic houses, bicycles, museums, nightlife, and freedom. Every year, visitors from around the world arrive to experience its beauty. They walk its bridges, photograph its sunsets, and lose themselves in streets that have existed for centuries. But every city has another side. A side that most people pass without noticing. Just a few streets away from the crowded cafes and tourist attractions, another Amsterdam exists. An Amsterdam where some people have no front door to return to, where addiction steals time, health, and hope, where loneliness can be more painful than hunger, where mental illness, poverty, debt, and trauma quietly shape everyday life. For many, these people become invisible, not because they aren't there, but because we've learned not to look. Yet behind every sleeping bag beneath a bridge, every person trying to stay warm through another cold night, every addiction, every broken relationship, every setback is a human story. A son, a daughter, a father, a mother, a friend, someone who once had dreams of their own. This documentary isn't about statistics. It isn't about politics. And it isn't about judgment. It's about people. People who have fallen. People who are still fighting. And the people who refuse to let them fight alone. 50 years ago, a small group of ordinary people saw what others were walking past. They believed no one should be left without compassion, without dignity, or without someone willing to listen. Their guiding principle was simple. Help where there is no helper. What began as a small coffee bar in a school basement would grow into one of Amsterdam's most important lifelines for people experiencing homelessness, addiction, and social isolation. This is the story of the Regenboog Groep, a story spanning 50 years, a story of compassion, a story of resilience, a story of helping where there is no helper. And it all began in the summer of 1974. As the Regenboog Groep found its footing, Amsterdam faced a growing crisis. What had begun as isolated cases of heroin addiction in the early 1970s rapidly escalated into one of the city's greatest public health challenges. By the late 1970s and throughout the 1980s, an estimated 7,000 people were living with heroin addiction across Amsterdam. The streets changed. Entire neighbourhoods felt the impact. Families watched loved ones disappear into addiction. Communities searched for answers. Many believed the only solution was punishment. Others believed the problem should simply be hidden from public view. But the Regenboog Groep chose a different path. Instead of turning people away, they moved closer. The organisation understood something many had yet to recognise. People struggling with addiction were still people. They deserved dignity, safety, and the opportunity to rebuild their lives. What began as a listening ear gradually evolved into one of Europe's earliest pioneers of harm reduction. The Regenboog Groep helped introduce supervised drug consumption spaces. Places where people could use their own substances under the watch of trained professionals instead of risking overdose alone in alleyways or abandoned buildings. The organisation also became involved in methadone distribution, eventually working alongside the municipality of Amsterdam. Clean needle exchange programs were established to reduce the spread of HIV and hepatitis C. Mobile outreach vehicles, known to many as the methadone bus and syringe exchange bus, travelled throughout the city, bringing essential services directly to those who needed them while reducing disruption in surrounding neighbourhoods. These ideas were controversial. Many questioned them. Some openly opposed them. The Regenboog Group frequently clashed with city authorities over the use of buildings and unconventional methods. Support did not come easily, yet over time, the results became impossible to ignore. Lives were being saved. Disease transmission was reduced. People who had once disappeared from society remained connected to healthcare and social workers. Eventually, many of the approaches once considered radical earned official backing from the city. What had started as an experiment in compassion became public policy. The work of the Regenboog Group began attracting international attention. Organisations and governments across Europe, and later countries including Canada and Australia, looked to Amsterdam as an example of how harm reduction could protect both vulnerable individuals and the wider community. The Regenboog Group had grown far beyond a small basement coffee bar. It had become a leader in a movement that would influence social care around the world. But the organisation's story was still only beginning, because helping someone survive is only the first step. Helping someone rebuild a life requires much more. Today, what began as a single basement coffee bar has grown into one of Amsterdam's largest and most comprehensive social support organisations. Every day, the Regenboog Group reaches thousands of people through an extensive network of staff, volunteers, community partners, and social enterprises. More than 1,500 volunteers give their time each year. Around 420 paid staff members work across the organisation. Together, they support some of Amsterdam's most vulnerable residents. The Regenboog Group now operates 9 drop-in centres across Amsterdam. 10 work and social enterprise projects help people regain confidence, structure, and employment experience. 9 refugee housing locations provide temporary accommodation and support for people starting over. 3 supervised drug consumption rooms continue to offer a safer alternative for those struggling with addiction. Every year, approximately 4,000 people receive training through the Volunteer Academy, strengthening the city's culture of community support. Despite decades of progress, the need has never disappeared. An estimated 13,000 to 14,000 people in Amsterdam are homeless or living in unstable housing. For many of them, the Regenboog Group represents far more than a service. It represents a second chance. Recognition for the organisation's work has continued to grow. In 2025, during its 50th anniversary, the City of Amsterdam awarded the Regenboog Group the Jubileum Penning, one of the city's highest civic honours, an award reserved for organisations that have made a lasting contribution to Amsterdam over many decades. But numbers alone cannot explain what makes the Regenboog Group unique. To understand its impact, you have to step inside one of its drop-in centres, known in Dutch as inloophuizen. These are places designed for people with nowhere else to go. No referral is required. No appointment needs to be booked. No lengthy intake process stands between someone in need and the help they are seeking. If you are 16 years of age or older, the door is open. Inside, visitors find something many people take for granted: a warm meal, fresh coffee, hot tea, a safe place to sit, a hot shower, clean clothes, access to computers and Wi-Fi, and immediate conversations with social workers who can help with housing, healthcare, identification documents, income support, or simply navigating the next step forward. For someone living on the streets, these everyday services can mean the difference between surviving another day or beginning the journey back towards stability. The atmosphere is intentionally different from many traditional institutions. The goal is not to overwhelm people with rules. It is to create a place where they are treated with dignity. A place where trust can begin to grow. Because before someone can rebuild a life, they first need somewhere they feel welcome. And for thousands of people across Amsterdam, that place has become the Regenboog Groep. There is perhaps no part of the Regenboog Groep's work more misunderstood or more debated than its supervised drug consumption rooms. To some, the idea sounds controversial. To the people who work inside them, it is about one thing: keeping people alive. These facilities did not appear overnight. They grew out of informal, tolerated spaces during the mid-1990s, before eventually becoming part of official policy around 1998. Today, 3 supervised consumption rooms operate within the Regenboog Groep's network. One near Amsterdam Central Station, another inside the Amok Drop-In Centre, and another at Prinshof on the Ouderzijds Voorburgwal. These are not places where drugs are sold. Staff do not supply drugs. They do not encourage drug use. Visitors bring their own substances. What the Regenboog Groep provides is something very different. A clean, supervised environment, sterile equipment, medical oversight, and immediate assistance if something goes wrong. The goal is simple: reduce preventable deaths, prevent the spread of HIV and hepatitis C, keep people connected to healthcare instead of leaving them isolated on the streets. People who visit these facilities range in age from their 20s to their 60s. Many come not only because it is safer, but because it offers warmth, human contact, and a chance to remain connected with people who genuinely care about what happens next. According to one facility director, in 15 years, there was not a single overdose inside the supervised consumption rooms. The model has attracted international attention. Researchers and harm reduction organisations continue to study Amsterdam's approach as an example of how compassion and public health can work together. But survival is only part of rebuilding a life. Something as simple as a clean change of clothes can restore confidence. At one of the Regenboog Groep's centres, clothing is not simply handed out. Instead, visitors first take a shower. Afterward, they exchange the clothes they arrived in for clean garments from the centre's clothing stock. The clothing they leave behind is thoroughly washed, then prepared for someone else who may need it tomorrow. It is a continuous cycle, a system designed not only to provide clothing, but also to preserve dignity. Volunteers carefully inspect every donated item. Clothes that are damaged, stained, or unsuitable are not accepted. The greatest need is almost always practical clothing. Warm jackets, long-sleeved shirts, strong shoes. The kinds of items that become essential when life is lived outdoors. Alongside the clothing exchange programme, the Regenboog Groep also organises free clothing shopping days in partnership with Amsterdam's Food Bank. Instead of receiving a random bag of donated clothes, people are invited to browse, choose, and shop, just as anyone else would. It is a small difference, but one that reinforces something the Regenboog Groep has believed since 1974. Helping someone should never come at the expense of their dignity, because every act of compassion, no matter how small, reminds a person that they still matter. One of the most remarkable aspects of the Regenboog Groep is not simply the services it provides. It is who helps shape them. Many organisations make decisions for the people they serve. The Regenboog Groep believes those same people should also have a voice in how the organisation is run, not a symbolic voice, a real one. People who use the services are invited to participate in a structured system of councils that influence decisions at every level. It begins with the participants' council. People involved in buddy programs, community meals, and food support meet regularly to share their experiences and ideas. Each drop-in centre also has its own location council. Visitors discuss the everyday issues that affect their centre, from facilities and activities to practical improvements. Representatives from these local councils are then elected to the Visitors' Council. And at the highest level, the Central Council brings together 10 representatives, current and former service users, alongside regular visitors, to meet annually with the organisation's Board of Supervisors. Their purpose is not simply to be heard. Their purpose is to influence policy. The Regenboog Group has openly stated that it wants to avoid what it calls pseudo-participation. In other words, giving people a seat at the table without giving them any real influence. Instead, former clients often become what the Dutch call ervaringsdeskundigen, experience experts, people whose lived experiences become valuable knowledge. Many go on to mentor others. Some become employees. Others help shape the future of the organisation that once helped them. It reflects a simple philosophy. People are not defined forever by their lowest point. Sometimes, the people who have walked the hardest road become the best guides for those still finding their way. Over the years, the Regenboog Group has also expanded its services to meet the changing needs of Amsterdam. Among those developments are dedicated programmes for the city's LGBTIQ+ community. These include an LGBTIQ+ night shelter, drop-in activities, coffee mornings, shared community dinners, and a buddy programme that brings together around 100 pairs each week, helping newcomers and people experiencing isolation build lasting social connections. The organisation believes these services are essential because LGBTIQ+ people make up a disproportionately large share of Amsterdam's homeless population. Although the Regenboog Group was never founded as an LGBTQ+ organisation, its mission has always remained the same: to help the people who need it most, whoever they may be. Today, more than 50 years after 4 ordinary people opened a coffee bar in the basement of a school, the Regenboog Group stands as one of Amsterdam's last comprehensive safety nets. Together with the Salvation Army, it is one of only 2 organisations in the city offering a complete pathway toward rebuilding a life, a place to sleep, a warm meal, clean clothes, support for addiction, practical guidance, meaningful work, and perhaps most importantly, the chance to begin again. What started in 1974 with nothing more than coffee, tea, a toilet, and a compassionate conversation has grown into a lifeline for thousands of people every year. Its name comes from an ancient promise